Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 12. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, recently we've been doing a lot of open team sheet teams, so I decided to take a little bit of a break within closed team sheet team. And who best to represent the closed team sheet team spam other than Armarouge, who probably is the Pokemon that benefits from it the most, other than like Smeargle. Well, let's get into the team breakdown that we've got here. First up, we have the Gallade, and our Gallade has a lot of type coverage moves with the Psycho Cut, Sacred Sword, and the Night Slash all coming into play, with our Sharpness ability, which gives us a 1.5 times boost on all of our cutting moves, and we also have the Shadow Sneak, which can help us get focus sashes or get kills that we couldn't finish before, but it also works in tandem whenever we talk about Armarouge here in a sec. But for the Gallade set, I decided to give it a Terra Steel, because Steel has a lot of really good resistances, and I went with the Covert Cloak, just because most of them are Clear Amulet. However, Covert Cloak is a little bit more secretive, as you can draw a few more fake outs from things like Incineroar, and then once you draw the fake out, you can easily just Sacred Sword them down. Next up, we have a Sinistcha, and this Sinistcha set is made to this. Based on the team preview, you would think that we're running a Trick Room team, however, nothing here actually involves Trick Room, as this Sinistcha is a fully get up your Calm Minds and then stay alive for forever using your signature move, Machagacha, which heals you whenever you hit it into targets, and use the Shadow Ball, but you also have the Strength stat for lowering the attack of Pokemon, and then healing yourself based on how much attack that Pokemon had. It's really good. And then I went with the Terra type of Poison. I can't remember where I saw Poison Sinistcha recently, but it really procced my interest because Poison is actually really good on Sinistcha, even though the Poison Terra type allows Sinistcha to actually get rid of a lot of its weaknesses that it has in this current format. Next up, we got the main Pokemon, Armarouge itself. This Armarouge is a weakness policy weak armor set, so the idea is that we get either the Gallade or the Zoroark to use their Shadow Sneaks to side attack into Armarouge, and that will activate our weak armor, which will give us 1 defense drop, but it'll give us 2 boost of speed, and it will also activate our weakness policy, giving us 2 attack boost and 2 special attack boost. And then once that is activated, Stored Power is going to have 6 boost in total, which means that it will become a 140 base power move. Combined with the fact that we have double special attack from the weakness policy means that we can KO pretty much like anything that we want with Stored Power that's not a Dark type or a Steel type. But for those, we have the Heat Wave, which will do good spread damage, and we also have the Iron Defense in case we want to make ourselves more physically bulky for whenever we're trying to hit things, but it also gives us another +2 that we could use for the Stored Power to increase the base power of Stored Power. Next up, we have Hisuian Zoroark. Hisuian Zoroark is very useful because we can use its illusion ability to disguise it as one of the other Pokemon on the field, except for Indeedee, because more often than not, whenever you're running Indeedee, you should be Psychic Terrain, so Zoroark's not going to set up the Psychic Terrain once it enters the field. But other than that, every other Pokemon here has an ability that Zoroark can hide as in order to make Zoroark a little bit more sneaky. And this Zoroark is a supportive Zoroark with the Bitter Malice, which has a 100% chance to lower the target's attack by 1. And we also have the Snarl, which will lower the target's special attack by 1 in a spread way. And we also have the Will-O-Wisp for anything that we can't Bitter Malice the attack down, and lastly we have the Shadow Sneak for getting sashes that maybe Armarouge couldn't, but also to activate Armarouge's entire setup that it has going on. And then the Terra I just left as normal, because your Terra doesn't really matter on Hisuian Zoroark more often than not. I guess we should actually change this. I'll change it to Ghost, just slightly better. But then we also have the Focus Sash just to make it so that we can live 1 hit, surprisingly, with Zoroark and then get off one of our supportive moves in order to get any of our Pokemon really going or take a hit better. Next up, we have Indeedee, and this Indeedee, not
it's pretty much just here for expanding force, if I'm being honest. Like, having the psychic terrain set up and clicking expanding force is pretty great. It's something that you can't do with female Indeedee, which is the one main trade-off now that female Indeedee can learn Trick Room. But we also have the surprise Terra Electric Terra Blast, which can allow us to hit some water types for some good damage. And we also have the Substitute in case there's an Amoonguss on the field. You can get a Substitute, and then if Amoonguss terras into like a water type, for example, we can still expanding force it, but we can better play around it with use of our other moves. And we don't even have to terrestrialize to use Terra Blast, since Indeedee is a normal type. And lastly, we have the Hisuian Decidueye, who is here to be our surprise speed with the Choice Scarf, and then we can use triple arrows, which is really strong this generation. It has 3 different effects. It is a increased chance to crit, so it's a 1 in 8 chance on triple arrows to crit, and also has a 50% chance to drop your defense by 1 stage, and it has a 30% chance to flinch, which is it's Leaf Blade but better. That's what it is. We also have the knockoff for getting rid of items, and we have the Tailwind in case we want to give Armarouge just any speed control for whatever reason, or to keep up with other Pokemon Tailwinds. And we have the Scrappy ability, which is Hisuian Decidueye's hidden ability, which allows us to hit ghost types with our fighting type moves, and normal type moves if we had any, but triple arrows is the main thing that you want, because you can hit things like Goldango, who are now super effective weak to the triple arrows instead of being immune to it. And then we have Terra Fire, because fire gives us some nice resistances, but it also makes us immune to being burned on Decidueye, which is very handy. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into some battles! Okay, so this first battle was against a bit of a balanced team, but they also have Hydreigon and Goldango, which are very good, and then they also have the Sneasler, who I was expecting to be Grassy Seed Sneasler, so that can complicate things quite a bit. We started the battle with Decidueye and Gallade, and this is going to be a little complicated because I don't remember which slots Zoroark is in, and it's not going to show me which slots Zoroark is in until Zoroark is revealed. So I might call something that happens in this game and be completely off. I think that this Gallade is Zoroark here, and this is the real Decidueye, and I decided to triple arrows into the Hydreigon, and I use Snarl onto either Pokemon to try and get a special attack drop. Yeah, we triple arrows Hydreigon, and Hydreigon lives, but the Snarl makes us a little bit faster with the Zoroark. It's who they expected Gallade to probably be pretty slow here. And they went Terra Poison on the Primarina in order to avoid being hit by the Grass type move. But we get to take out Hydreigon, and they go for the Calm Mind, which is not so bad for us. But now Decidueye is locked into triple arrows, and Poison, it does resist Grass, but it also resists fighting, so it's a bit of a weird spot to be in. I decided to switch it in Indeedee in order to catch a Fake Out or a Grassy Terrain as we go for the Will-O-Wisp into Rillaboom, and they just go for Knockoff into Gallade, not knowing to deal with Zoroark shenanigans anymore. They go for Dazzling Gleam, and they crit Indeedee, but more importantly, they take out Zoroark off the field, but Zoroark's kind of good at this point. But now I bring in the real Gallade as they bring in Sneasler, and I get to just click Expanding Force with Indeedee because Indeedee is so darn fast. And Gallade's Psycho Cut fails in case something wasn't fast enough, and at this point, the opponent kind of understands that the battle is over since they only have a burned Rillaboom in the back. This is against a Whimsicott Tailwind team, however, they also have the Weezing, which I think pops up a few times during these battles. But they also have the Palmot, which can bring things back, so quite a few interesting pieces. Gosh darn, I muted all these battles beforehand. But Weezing with this neutralizing gas is keeping Zoroark from being hidden, and we also can't do the strategy with Armarouge since Armarouge won't get its weak armor, so it's not guaranteed to be faster than anything. We could activate just the weakness policy by itself, but that's kind of lame. So we Bitter Malice into Weezing in order to get it to drop a little bit, and they taunt into Armarouge, perhaps expecting Trick Room, but we fire back with Heat Wave, and that does a good amount of damage, and they Sludge Bomb into Zoroark, but Zoroark resisted because it is a ghost type. As we see that the Weezing leaves the field, so abilities are now active again, and we Shadow Sneak the Whimsicott down in order to get rid of it, as our Caledon hits the field, and our Caledon takes the Heat Wave pretty nice. They Terrafire Annihilate here, but I side Shadow Sneak into Armarouge in order to activate the thing that we do, and we do the thing, and Annihilate dies, and they Dark Pulse into Zoroark. But now they only have a Weezing and an Arcaludon, and we have a Gallade, who Gallade can pretty easily cut through Arcaludon here. We missed the Heat Wave, but it's not going to make too much of a difference because Weezing is the one that we wanted to hit, because Gallade with its Sacred Sword is going to be able to cut through Arcaludon's defense boost. Moving into another balanced team, but they have a bit of a mixed terrain setup, as they have the Quaquaval, which is not a usual water type to see here. They decide to lead Quaquaval and Pelipper, and I lead Gallade and Decidueye, theoretically. This might be Zoroark again. But they decided to protect Quaquaval here, and I wanted to Leaf Blade into it, but I kind of revealed that I'm Choice Scarf, but I get the Snarl into Pelipper at least, as Pelipper gets the Tailwind. So now a lot of things are going to be outspeeding us. Gallade at least has a Focus Sash because it's Zoroark, and they do Hurricane into Decidueye, but Zoroark gets to get off a Will-O-Wisp into Quaquaval, which is going to make it a lot less effective, as we can now bring in Armarouge, and Armarouge is going to Terra Psychic, so it's no longer weak to water, as we use Shadow Sneak to get off the strategy, where we get off our weakness policy. They Aqua Step into Zoroark in order to take it out, and what do? Pelipper. They Hurricane, but Hurricane doesn't do too much because of the special attack drop, as we get the stored power into Pelipper, taking it down. And in comes Gallade, and then in comes their Rillaboom. They use Terra Water on their Quaquaval, and they try to Aqua Step down Armarouge, and U-turn into Armarouge, but Gallade gets the Psycho Cut into Quaquaval, but it's just not enough to pick up KO. But thankfully, this is where we have Shadow Sneak to pick up the rest of that damage, as we get the stored power into Rillaboom with Reckless Abandon, and now all they have in the back is Incineroar, who, yeah, they do drop the attack of our Pokemon, but Incineroar doesn't have much to beat Gallade, and it's not even faster than Gallade, so we're good on two fronts there. This game, I believe, ends up being a pretty quick one, because they lead their Indeedee and their Braviary, and then I get off the strategy with Armarouge, but they Terra Psychic and Helping Hand their Braviary, so Armarouge does get off the strategy here. However, even though Armarouge resists the Expanding Force and we do a lot of damage with the Heat Wave, the resisted damage still kills Armarouge, which is kind of unfortunate, as Zoroark is brought down to its Sash, and we now get Gallade on the field. This Indeedee doesn't have Follow Me, so we can pretty easily use Zoroark to take out their Braviary, as they use Indeedee to take out Gallade, because it's slightly faster than Gallade. Now it is their 2 Mons in the back versus our 2 Mons in the back. And Sinistcha heals up Gallade a little bit with its ability, as we try to Night Slash into Sinistcha to try and get rid of it, because it's the only thing that threatens our Sinistcha, as Liquidation does damage into Gallade, but because of Sinistcha's hospitality, Gallade narrowly survives the attack. It's time to take out a Araquanid, because I don't really want it to be on the field anymore. Machagacha into them, and their Araquanid goes down. At this point, it's my Sinistcha, who is built to not be a Trick Room Sinistcha, versus their Sinistcha, who more than likely is built to be a Trick Room Sinistcha, since they have things like the Araquanid. Lastly, this is another Weezing game here that starts off a little strange, I believe. They lead Kilowattrel and Incineroar, which was not what I was thinking they were going to lead. However, we do get to get Fake Outed by Armarouge, and that activates our ability, and they do Tailwind, and then we use Gallade, because it's the real Gallade, in order to Sacred Sword into Incineroar. And now they have Tailwind up, so they're pretty fast, but I try to Shadow Sneak into Incineroar just to get rid of it. They Air Slash into Gallade, but Kilowattrel's not the biggest special attacker, so it doesn't take us out. They swap in Amoonguss here for whatever reason, but I decide to activate the Weak Armor again, which now puts us at ×3 speed with Armarouge, and activates our Weakness Policy, as they miss the Air Slash, but that we miss the Heat Wave, so that's a bit of a less fair trade for them, but it's a less impactful trade for us, as we can just keep spamming that Heat Wave with Armarouge with Reckless Abandon, and there's not much that this Gardevoir can do to stop us. Opponent's Tailwind dies out, and we bring in our Decidueye, as they bring in their Incineroar, and I decide to swap in Indeedee in case they wanted to go for the Fake Out play. And they do Fake Out into Armarouge, but Armarouge just gets to click the Heat Wave again, and we're good. So yeah, I hope you see what I mean when I mean that this team really only works in closed team sheet, because if your opponent can figure out what you're doing with the Shadow Sneaking into Armarouge, and then bring something that just doubles into Armarouge, then you're going to be up a creek without a paddle. I will admit, I'm not too passionate about this team, but I figured I'd get around to making this team eventually at some point, so give myself a bit of an easy day and just make a closed team sheet, Armarouge team. The World Championships are going on today, in case you don't know, and I'm literally looking forward to see who emerges victorious out of day 2. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, also, Team Paste are going to be in the descriptions of all the videos now, in case you're wondering. Thanks for watching again. Bye.